Hey folks, welcome to Well. Today I'm here to talk to you about why I'm so successful. I'm successful today because of my father. To start with, my mother and my father. I'm talked about my father. My parents both left me an inheritance. That's invaluable. But my father left me everything. When I say everything, I mean he left me all the tools, all of the insight, all of the knowledge, all of the wisdom that I needed to be successful for not only the rest of my life, but for the rest of my family's life, for the rest of their lives, and going on generations and generations. We talk about generational wealth a lot, but we don't really understand, what that really is made up of. We think about it in context of, somebody left me a big chunk of money, and that's the inheritance that they left me. The reality of it is no inheritance. The real generational wealth inheritance is knowledge and wisdom. Because it's not just enough to leave a chunk of money. Because typically most generations squander the wealth that's left. The monetary wealth that's left. But those that last, those that leave long-lasting legacies, are those who left the wisdom to maintain, to steward, to grow, to manifest that same said wealth that was left. It was the knowledge and the wisdom. It was the structure. It was the platform. It was the infrastructure, the knowledge, the tools that allowed the generations following to grow it and manifest it forward for generations to come. So when I say my father left me, and the inheritance that he left me, now I'm gonna preface this, he didn't leave me billions of dollars. He didn't leave me, billions of dollars yet. He left me billions of dollars in the future. And how did he do that? What he gave me, apart from giving me life, he gave me his story. He literally gave me his story, like his literal story, his autobiography. He gave his story to me, his life story. What that did for me was not only, okay, sure, going forward and, I own a story. It's more than that. It's way more than that. It's, I own my story. His autobiography, I came to him and asked him for his story. And he started to write and give me his story. And then he ended up writing his autobiography. He gave me his whole life story. What he did when he did that, he gave me insight to my life, to my existence that preceded me by multiple years. He had me when he was 36 years old. So he gave me the before story of my life, so I got 36, 37 years before my life even was even formed, all the way up until, he passed away, he was almost 87 and I was about to turn 50. So for almost 50 years, I got 50 years plus 37. So I got 87 years. I got 87 years of my story that I get to utilize going forward in my life for the rest of my life that I get to build on. All of the wins, all of the losses, all of the mistakes, all of the zigs, all of the zags, all of the, the journeys, all of the insights. I got the wisdom. Not only did I get the wisdom, but the wisdom was able to be shared. I don't care how for those who've, actually read my father's autobiography, I don't, how you might feel personally. It doesn't matter. This was his story. Here's the reality. What this does is, there's other people out here that know my father's story now. So when I interact with them, I don't have to, justify or fill them in on why I am where I am, how I got to where I got to. I don't have to catch them up on, why it seems like it's taking you so long to get to. I don't have to catch them up on none of that. I don't have to catch them on none of that. I just give, some little, clip notes here and there. Maybe, when they've read and digested my father's autobiography, oh my goodness, the insights that they already have into me coming into the room. They can mix that with what they already know of me. Boom, bang, boom. Now we have a foundation now that's more powerful. It's more impactful because they know the backstory on how I got to where I am, to jump off. But my father, and he willed that to me. He gave me his story that, we get to share with the world. But the fact of it is as his son, as his only begotten son, it hits way different. He raised me and trained me way different than he did my sisters. He raised me and trained me way different. Because see, here's the thing, here's the kicker. He had me when he was 36. By the time he was 36 years old, he had lived multiple lives already. He had done so much. He had been so far that he knew that he's raising a young black man that he never thought he'd have a son. But see, so, God blessed him with a son. So he's like, he trained me different. He trained me way different. He instilled in me, attributes, lessons, hard lessons. He treated me. He had specific goals for me. He had specific goals for me. Having already lived so many lives, having already, gone through so many different iterations of life, already up to that point, he knew, okay, in my son, I have to impart upon him levels of knowledge that I have, up to this point. And so he raised me different. As we've grown and grew, for the longest time, I did not think my father thought much of me as a child. I didn't, because he was always working. I can honestly say I don't have parental trauma as other people have. Was our life growing up great? No. We had a lot of different struggles, but I don't suffer from trauma from it. It was blessings. Blessings on top of blessings. My parents loved me dearly. I know that. I've known that for a long time. Now, my father, for a stretch there when I was a child, I didn't think he loved me so much, but he did. But he loved me so much that he could not allow me. To fall into to the same traps that he'd already seen and experienced, that he sees other. And the reality of it is, he was raising me with a purpose. Okay, but the inheritance that he left me was wisdom. And see, there's a lot of wisdom that he imparted upon me that's not in the books. It's not in the books that nobody else got to get. But here's the reality. He shares so much wisdom with so many others, and even in his autobiography, that you have a clear picture of, when you're dealing with me, you have a better understanding of why I am how I am, why I conduct myself the way I do, and why I consider success the way I consider success. And see, here's the thing. When it comes to success, now, like I say, the money, the billions are coming. I guarantee you, the billions, in the next 10 years, it's already on my 10-year plan. I don't know what your 10-year plan is, but my 10-year plan, results in multiple billions of dollars of workable, capital that I'm able to, utilize and grow and manifest forward. Not just in, but this is actual in practices and processes that I've built and that I'm building by the grace of God. But plus, what my father birthed into me, and what he's built into me. See, I have a blueprint that we've shared with the world, in his autobiography. It's a blueprint, but it hits different for me because it is me. It is me. It's me personally. I don't have to, wonder now. Once he gave me that, now it's been so, it's been such a revelation for me. And people that are around me can see, you've changed a lot of it. No, I'm just back to the original, factory settings is what I am. I'm back to the original factory settings. Once I knew why, I got the answers to the why. Why did life do this? Why did this happen? I got the answers right there in my hand. The book, next to the Bible is my father's autobiography. Oh, I got the book, and I get to understand. That's why this happened. That's why he met my mother. That's why they moved here. That's why I was born here. That's why this happened. That's why I have the answers. So once I have those answers, I'm free. I'm free to get back to factory settings that God put in me. So to this day, today I'm well, the billions of dollars that my father left me are being realized in real time in front of us all as I'm growing and developing. And I'm, like I said, I'm gonna preface this, I'm far from it now, but the reality of it is it's in process, it's in progress, it's working. The steps are not only being made, but they've been made, and they're starting to progress. And and it's like I say, the plan is being worked literally. The plan is being worked literally. And what's the biggest part of that plan is lifelong learning. Lifelong learning. The things that my father struggled with. He was able to instill in me and alert me of, so that I'm like, okay, this is because he was the smartest man I arguably knew. Anybody who knew my father, he was probably the smartest man that they knew. He was, intelligence was not a problem for my father. But here's the thing, knowing a lot is not, does not a successful man make. Matter of fact, the most intelligent people in the world, the most intelligent men and women in the world, typically struggle economically, extremely, extremely. And the same was true for my father. He did not die a rich man. He did not die a rich man. He did not leave me, a bank account, with a lot of pluses, not at all. Quite the opposite. But what he left me the blueprint. He left me the game plan. We strategized before the end of his life. We strategized every day, constantly, for years and years and years. The blueprint. He gave me all the tools that I've implemented and that I'm implementing currently and that I will implement in the future. That's going to ensure the billions of dollars that he's left me. So my father did leave me. He left me billions of dollars of an inheritance that I have to work to realize, to produce, sure, for my family going forward. But he left me with billions of dollars of tangible, workable, wisdom, not just wisdom, but structures, not just structures, but infrastructure, but not just infrastructure, but lived experience, not just lived experience, but lifelong experience. So I don't get to just pick off my own 51 years of life. I get to pick from his 87 years of life as well. So, now I'm rocking with 138 years of lived experience that I get to utilize every day today, right now. Even as I'm talking to you now, making this video for what I have in my pocket, this is why I'm so successful. This is why I'm so successful. Struggle like everybody else. I'm not exempt from struggles, not by a long shot. Successful, very. What's my, how do I know? Because here's the thing. We don't qualify our own success just because, we say we're successful. When somebody tells you you're successful, that's what knocks you for a loop. When somebody looks you straight face, when another man looks you straight face, I see your success. Word, that's what's up. Validation. Validation. So now you get clarification. Like, okay, when I look at my pattern, when I look at the path that I've been on, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not where I was. Okay, success is just, succession, moving forward, growing forward. Are you productively moving forward in a pattern, that's showing growth and that's showing productivity, that's producing, some better fruit. Yes. Okay. So I'm extremely successful. Okay. Now the money part, the monetary part, that's part of it, but you have to have the foundation first. Without the foundation, you can't have that. You can't have billions of dollars if you don't have the foundation and structure to steward billions of dollars. Let that sink in. You cannot have billions of dollars if you do not have the foundation and structure to steward $1 billion. Period. It's not a, well, I'm worth this, I'm right. No. If you do not have the foundation and structures to steward $1 billion, you cannot have $1 billion. Period. I don't care who you are. If you do not have the foundation and the structures to steward $1 billion, okay, you're not going to get it. What I have the foundation of, and like I say, the thing about my father's blueprint, his autobiography, he shared it with many. We've shared it with a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? But he willed it to me. I own it. See, I own it. I own his autobiography. I own it. I'm sole ownership of his autobiography. Not just because I say it. No, because literally, legally, I own it. I literally own it. I literally own his story, the rights to his story. Completely and totally. That's what he left me. He did not leave me a bank account full of zeros. What he left me was his story. What he left me was the teachings, the learnings, the wisdom. What he left me was even more than he could have left me monetarily at this stage of life for him. What he left me was future wealth, monetary wealth. He left me with wealth of knowledge, period. In 2024, when he left here, he left me with a wealth of knowledge, period. But the monetary wealth he left to go build it. So say I inherited the blessing to go build this thing. And so, and this is all while, see, everything that I'm doing now, all my businesses now that I operate and run, he fully co-signed on, which is hard. That's the thing. When somebody's that intelligent and everything, he don't just co-sign on everything. Just because I'm his son, I'm pretty sure I probably got it harder from him than everybody else that he's ever dealt with, period. And no matter how hard they may have gotten it, they can honestly attest that I probably got it harder because he did not co-sign. He didn't just sign off on every little thing I did. There wasn't no third place, awards with me. Never. And a win was not just a win. The wins had to be concise, had to be very, decisive and very, precise. There was no frail wins. You know what I'm saying? So the wins, when he gave me the cosign and the check off, they really were really valid. So so I sat here today, with billions of dollars of inheritance that I have yet to go realize. But I have in my hand the tools that I'm using today that's building, these that's on this 10-year plan that's fully in work. We're, 2 years into the 10-year plan. So it's like 8 years plan now, but the reality of it is those billions are going to be realized, and not billions just for sake of billions, but billions that I will be able to steward, in order to grow and manifest and multiply, what God has built, and what God has built, what my Father has instilled in me. So I'm just carrying on his legacy. Generational wealth. You see what I'm saying? This is generational wealth, in real tangible physical terms that we get to build and realize on, that's going to be stewarded and propagated, for generations to come. And so today on Well, I'm just, sharing with everybody. Like I said, I want to preface, I don't have, billions of dollars right now. I do not, don't have millions of dollars right now. I do not. I'm going to preface that. So somebody jump on here and say, that's not true. No, here's the reality. My Father gave me the inheritance that I get to build and realize these billions of dollars that I'm definitely building. See, I'm talking about what I'm about to start doing. This already started years ago. The businesses started and developed years ago. The structures, the networks, the started years ago. And this is now the bricks are on my shoulders. Now I carry the load. To this next leg, for my children and grandchildren and great grandchildren and so forth and so on. So, today on Well, just be encouraged, hopefully, you have, realize what's your story? What's your, if you don't know your parents', stories, get those autobiographies. If you need help, holler at me. We'll make, we'll do some things, and we'll help you get that story out for yourself. But the reality of it is my Father left me billions of dollars of future dollars that I'm going to realize what he gave me. And by owning his story, owning the blueprint that we've been able to share with others, that we will share with the whole world, you'll be able to see and understand where I'm coming from, and understand why, this guy sits here today, successful and assured, and on this track, because you get to read all the way back to 1937, how this thing began. And you get more insights even began before then, because, he talks about his, the history of our family, and there's more to come over coming years, more of our family and everything. Because as I sat here next to a family tree that, my cousin, who's the genealogist in the family, had put together several years ago for us. And so I'm looking at 4 generations back of knowing where I came from on my father's side, which gives me great insights to where I'm going. You see what I'm saying? I'm not just talking about, talking to be cute. No, this is real money. This is real legacy. This is real generational wealth. But on that note, God bless you, and we'll talk to you later.